to support the bill as a whole.
The Honourable Leanne Dalzell.
I want to support the comments that the Labour spokesperson Andrew Little began with, which was that this was an amazing process. It was a fantastic process to bring law reform to Parliament, which was to develop a discussion paper that would set out all of the issues that everybody could engage in, understanding what all those issues were about. And then this amazing process happened not far from this House, in the Legislative Council chamber. The Minister enabled all of the parties to come together, and they basically held a conference here at Parliament with all of those external interests operating with the Ministry, with the Minister, with the opposition parties. Everybody was there. Everyone had a say, everyone made a contribution. We had the judges, we had external consultants, we had everyone engaging in a really, really positive process. And then we had this external reference group established, which was also able to engage in a much broader process, which enabled many, many more people to be involved in developing the way the law would be introduced for debate in this Parliament. Fantastic. Except something went wrong, something changed along the way. And so instead of the bill that everybody thought, would have been introduced, suddenly there was the bill that was introduced, and suddenly the game plan had changed. And actually, what changed was that it became about the money. Instead of about the people that we are told, lectured, I would suggest, by the Minister is the real subject of our debate, suddenly it was actually about money. It wasn't about the children, certainly wasn't about parents coping with the most distressing environment that a parent could possibly cope with, and have to associate themselves or disassociate themselves with the heartbreak of being left by a partner who's just told them that they've cheated on them for the last few months and actually left them for somebody else, maybe their best friend, and re-established their life with somebody else. They were prepared, they were ready to go, but not the person who was left behind, and suddenly she's the problem. Right. Suddenly he's the problem if it's him. They are the problem of this process because they can't focus their immediate and absolute utmost and, attention on the best interests of the child. How heartless is this government that we actually leave it to people at the most distressing moment of their lives to take care of how they resolve the issues in the best interests of their children. Mr. Chairman, this Parliament has an absolute responsibility to the best interests of the children, and we actually do have a role to play as a Parliament and as a government to step in to assist parties to resolve disputes in the best interests of their children when maybe they are not in the best frame of mind to do so for themselves. And that's why we've always had counselling. That's why we've always, since this law was introduced, I was studying law when the family court proceedings legislation came into play. When the family court was first established, I was a law student, and we were studying the changes that were going to replace the law that existed before that, and actually the family court process was much better. It was much improved in terms of what was there before, and we were all looking forward to it. Yes, there have to be changes. We all agree with that. But why would you take out counselling? And I can find that in the regulatory impact statement. I know my colleagues will be shocked to find that I've read the regulatory impact statement. But it says this, and I think all of you will know instantly what I'm going to say. Counselling costs the state approximately $9.7 million per year. $9.7 million a year. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar budget here, and $9.7 million is a small chunk of that multi-million-dollar budget. But what it saves is not mentioned here. What it means is that couples are referred away from the court. Yes, they file under the court system, a Section 9 referral. And up until now, they've been receiving 6 different individual counselling support sessions, Mr Chairman, so that they are able to work out their issues. And the evidence that we received at the Select Committee, and yes, we did sit on the Select Committee and listen to people who came, and yes, many of them were lawyers, and no, Minister, they did not come out of a sense of self-interest. They came out of a sense of public duty. They believed that it was important that they had the capacity to refer to counselling paid for, yes, by the state, but the benefit in that conflict resolution was for the benefit of the country as a whole, and certainly for those individual children. 85 to 90% of those cases never came back to those lawyers. They never came back. The cases that the Minister keeps referring to are the very, very hard cases, the ones that come to the attention of the legal profession at the first instance. They go off to counselling, they get matters resolved, and that's where the government should be investing this $9.7 million. But they've already cut the number of counselling sessions in half, and they're going to reduce it down to 1 session after this legislation takes effect. Mr Chairman, this is absolutely crazy. And you can talk about alternative dispute resolution or family dispute resolution all you like. The first step is the counselling sessions that are there. They are the dispute resolution provisions that we have at the moment. They are fully funded. They were at 6 sessions before, and that is now reduced, as we know. And I cannot understand how the Minister can stand in this House and say that we don't want nanny whatever, nanny state, nanny agency, whatever, to stand in the way of making decisions that might assist the best interests of children when parents are in a highly charged emotional state. Mr Chairman, many children in this country get killed by a parent every year, get killed by a caregiver every year in this, a developed nation. This is supposed to be the country that is the best country in the world to bring up children, but we can't find it within ourselves to fund $9.7 million worth of funding to enable parents to be able to assist parents work through these most highly charged issues. Mr Chairman, the Minister said the UN doesn't bring up children. That is true. The United Nations gives an absolute statement of what a child is entitled to expect of its country in terms of his or her rights. United Nations Children's Convention on the Rights of the Child. And the rights of the child have got to be protected by our Parliament. Or what the hell are we doing here? Why are we here as members of Parliament if we don't care about the rights of children? What are we in Parliament for other than to advocate for the rights of children? You know, I have to say that I'm actually not disappointed to be leaving this place right now, because I am absolutely appalled that we would allow legislation to go through this House in order to take away from those people that actually rely on this Parliament doing the right thing for our families, and that is to protect children against what are perfectly normal human emotions at times of great distress, and enable them to come through and to achieve whatever they can achieve in their lives. But we will not do that by taking away their rights to our support at this very, very, very difficult time. So I have to say that we might have had a very good process going into this legislation. My difficulty is that dollars and cents have taken over from the common sense that actually drove the original reform process. Instead of focusing on the solution, we've now started focusing on the problem, but we've framed the problem as one about money instead of about human rights, children's rights, and the things that really matter. And I would have thought they mattered most to a country like New Zealand.
For Alfred Naro.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair,